Alrighty, I will discuss the content of this course and the overall philosophy of this course a little bit more in depth in the first class on Wednesday. However, I want to give you all a little bit of preview of what you have to look forward to. So we're going to start off with the language of impact evaluation, which is going to introduce the potential outcomes framework that will follow us throughout the entirety of this course. Moving on from there, we're going to get into the gold standard of impact evaluation, which is RCTs. Note that this is not an experimental design class. However, this is going to give us a good example to start with, in large part because a lot of what we do throughout the rest of the course is going to be trying to approximate what an RCT looks like through observational data or what we call natural experiments. Um, Third section of this class is going to discuss causality with observational data. This is going to include matching estimators, which are estimators that some people really like to use, but most people at this point have determined are not good enough to establish causality. However, they're important to be aware of, and they're still pretty useful in some cases. We're also going to be discussing OLS-based bounding estimators that are also something that might be a good tool to have in your toolkit. Then we're going to get into a lot of these natural experiments we that can be the backbone of applied economic research, including RDD. We're going to take a more advanced approach to instrumental variables that is going to be very useful for you all. And then we're going to take a step back and think a little bit about bad data and how it might impact our analyses. Then we're going to spend a few weeks essentially drinking from a fire hose and getting really deep into difference and differences. Even with taking 4 weeks out of this class to approach difference and differences, we still won't be able to cover everything that this area um, talks about, goes over. However, I am going to make sure that you all are aware of the most up-to-date conversations happening with difference and difference, and make sure that you're going to be able to utilize difference and differences methods, as well as being aware of some of the methods that we're not going to be able to get more in depth with in this course. Finally, we're going to do an introduction to duration analysis and talk a little bit about how duration analysis interacts with some of the other methods discussed in this course. Duration analysis is going to be a little bit different, but it is still obviously very, very useful for you all to know about. There are going to be 4 textbooks used in this course. The Angrist and Pischke textbooks are available online through the library, as well in physical form. And then Cunningham and Klein have their textbooks available open source online through their websites. And I will be linking those in Canvas whenever they are required. There are also going to be a ton of other readings available via Canvas. I don't think you really need to buy any of these textbooks. They might be nice things to have in your office, but don't worry at all if you don't want to shell out the money. I definitely didn't when I had this course, and it was okay. So the class meetings are going to take a few different distinct styles. We're going to have obviously a lecture, and those are going to be look like pretty typical classes. We'll also have some pre-lecture videos and quizzes, such as the one that you're watching right now. There are going to be a handful of different faces that are going to come in to these pre-lecture videos. I will be doing some of them myself, but a lot of them are going to come from the previous instructor of this course, Professor Jana Johnson, who is still around the Humphrey School, but is currently on a sabbatical year. And so she's wonderful. I would highly recommend you all reach out to her when she's not on sabbatical, but she will be doing some of the pre-lecture videos. Also, some of the previous TAs of this course will do some pre-lecture videos. I'm not planning on having Kate re-record any of the videos, so you probably won't see Kate in any of those videos. Almost all these videos will involve some version of a quiz to check your knowledge and make sure that you actually watched the video and went through the slides. We'll also be doing in-class group exercises in which you'll be paired with people throughout the course. We try to mix it up so that master's students get to interact with PhD students can interact with other PhD students from different programs. We find that this is super helpful so that students can help each other out. And it essentially serves as like an in-person assignment where we can check your knowledge and it forces you to apply the skills that you're learning in class in an in-person setting. And those are going to be required. I will discuss a little bit more when I discuss absence policies later on. And then we're also going to be doing Stata labs with the TA, in which Kate is going to show you how to apply these methods using Stata. Now, a bit about Stata access. So for the labs and also to complete the assignments, you're going to need to have Stata access. Note that we're going to be holding the labs in our classroom, which is not a computer lab, and so will not have computers. So you must bring a laptop with Stata access to class on lab days. There are ways to access Stata remotely if you are a PhD student in another department or at Humphrey. I assume that someone has talked to you about Stata access already. If someone has not discussed that with you and you are in a department outside of Humphrey, find someone in your department to ask. I'm sure there's a website somewhere where you can talk to folks. Now, if you are a student at the Humphrey School, we have our own license and we have our own set of IT folks who can help you out with setting up Stata. If you have done all of this and you still don't think that you will have reliable access to a laptop to use on lab days, please talk to me ASAP. Literally as soon as you watch this video, we'll figure something out. But I want to make sure that you can get the most out of these labs and learn.